Well, it looks like everybody's staring at me, so I guess I'll start this meeting. So welcome to the Montclair City Council meeting today. And as we normally do, we'll begin with the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'll do the Pledge of Allegiance today, and I'll have the city clerk announce who's doing the invocation.
Okay, the invocation will be by Pastor Lance Ere of Trinity Lutheran Church.
Thank you. Please stand.
Good evening. It's good to be back with you. Thank you for allowing me to be here this evening. And thank you to all you for all you do and for the people of Montclair and God's people here. Dear Heavenly Father, I ask for protection and guidance and discernment for the leadership of Montclair. Grant them wisdom in how they lead the people and help them provide for the needs of the families and the people in Montclair. I also ask that you extend that protection and guidance to the fire department and the police department. Lord, we just thank you for all the gifts of the city of Montclair, and we thank you again for its great leadership, and we lift them up to you. And may the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace in believing, so that by the power of the Holy Spirit you may abound in hope. Amen.
Amen. So I'd like you to join me, and I'd like to recognize today, as we do the Pledge of Allegiance, I want to do the Pledge of Allegiance for the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Federal Department of Justice, for all of our law enforcement, including the Montclair Police Department, that go all the way to ensure we are protected and our laws of this nation and this state and this city are protected by justice and by freedom. So please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, and we are a great nation. Thank you. Can I please have roll call?
Councilmember Lopez.
Here.
Councilmember Martinez. Here. Councilmember Johnson.
I'm here.
Mayor Pro Tem Rue.
Here.
Mayor Dutre.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the next item is presentations. I'm going to do something on the agenda. I know we have a large group here from the Golden Girls. So regarding consent calendar item number C2, I'm going to move that up, and we'll take action regarding that under presentations. So I think I'll do at this time, I'm going to ask that we consider item C2, which is to consider approval agreement number 22-86, 22-87, 22-88 with the Montclair Little League and the Golden Girls Softball League for use of ball field facilities, subject to any revisions deemed necessary by the city attorney. So can I have a motion for the
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion as presented.
I'll second.
second? And is there any comments?
Question, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
I actually was going to pull this during public comment. I'm sorry, during consent calendar items. The contract, I thought we had adopted an existing contract that was in place till the end of the year, December 31st, correct? With Montclair Little League.
No, it would have been through August, the end of August. And then
Okay.
this is their winter ball.
Okay, I was under the impression we had given them a contract to the end of the year, but I stand to be corrected. And then I was going to ask if that were the case, was the issue only the usage of lights and the funding of the use of lights in the alarm system?
That's included in the winter league
Okay,
agreement,
all right.
yes.
Thank you for the clarity.
The contracts are usually seasonal.
Well, again, I don't know where I thought we had adopted a year contract for them, and I guess I'm mistaken, but I appreciate the clarification. That was the only confusion I had. Thank you, Ms. Richter and Mr. Starr.
Well, thank you. Can we have an electronic vote? So it's adopted 5-0. So I will now begin with the presentation. I'm going to first start off with the presentation by the California 52nd Assembly District done by Assembly Member Freddie Rodriguez, where he recognized the Veteran of the Year, Woman of the Year, and Small Business of the Year in his 57 district, which included the city of Montclair, along with the city of Pomona, city of Ontario, and City of Chino. So we're going to recognize these individuals today. And the first person I want to recognize is the Veteran of the Year here in Montclair, and that's Sergeant Cornelis Lambert. And Sergeant Lambert, he's a resident of Moreno Valley, and he's been assisting the City of Montclair with the Memorial Program for over 10 years now. He began his 20-year military career in the Army, beginning in March 1981 to March 2001. He is currently the JROTC coordinator at Montclair High School. He says he became a junior ROTC teacher to help others to better themselves, as he did for 20 years he served for our country. He was nominated for this recognition by the Montclair Human Services Department. We'll recognize him in a second. The second person we're going to recognize is Woman of the Year, Leticia Letty Rodriguez. Letty and her family have lived in Montclair for over 28 years and has been employed by the Ontario Montclair School District for the past 27 years. She works as a senior translator in their special education department. In addition, Letty is a member of the California Schools Employees Association. She was nominated by the Ontario Montclair School District School Board member Flora Martinez. And finally, Small Business of the Year, which is Bolium. And hopefully many of you have been to the Bolium. Montclair Bolium is very historic. This opened its doors in 1958, making it the oldest surviving bowling alley in the Inland Valley. They offer regular league and tournament play on their 32 available lanes and also offer to host birthday parties, group events, and even daily specials like cosmic bowling. The owner, Bill Myers, wasn't able to join us this evening, but we will make sure he gets his certificate. So I'm going to ask that the city council members please join me here at the bottom, and we will do the presentations. Testing. There she is. All right. Why are we here? So on behalf of the City Council of the City of Montclair, congratulations, and I appreciate all your service to our great community and, of course, the service you've done for our great country as a member of the United States Army. Thank you, and we'll do the pictures in a second. On this side. Well, thank you for everything you've done to our great community, and of course for the Ontario Montclair School District and all the children, and of course the parents appreciate all your hard work. And so thank you, and of course on behalf of the City of Montclair, here's your certificate. I asked my council colleagues to stay here, and we're going to recognize the Golden Girls. George, where are you? Come on up here. Come up here, George. I know George is the president. And George is also a former member of the Community Activities Commission. And George, why don't you introduce your board members, the parents, and ask them to come up here too as well. We congratulate them. Take the mic. Here's the mic. Go for it.
All right, come on up. Come on up, team.
Come on up here, guys.
There's a lot of us. Come on up. Come on up. Girls, you can come too. Come on. All right, we'll just go in line here. I'm the newly appointed president And I'll just go down the line to the vice president.
I'm Jesse Lucero, the vice president, supporting George in the league.
All right, my name is Jessica Perez, and I'm one of the team moms for the T-ball girls.
I'm Marisela Ramos, and I am the board member for the bulletin board and announcements.
I am Violet Darlene Cesena, and I am the board member of. I'm a softball player.
Hi, my name is Danny Benitez. I'm board member. I'm the league chef, and also I assist with field maintenance.
I am Danny Hernandez, and I'm one of the coaches for the league.
And I'm a board member and a coach also.
I am Faith Tellez. I'm one of the team players.
I am Tanya Tellez, the secretary, one of the board members' secretary.
And I just want to say that I know George, and of course your entire board, last year you had one team. And this year, how many teams do you have? 6 teams. Went from 1 team to 6 teams. So congratulations to the Golden Girls. So let's try to take some pictures here with the entire council. And you guys, I don't know if we can do it. Just turn around, and we'll face. Everyone back here. I can stand back here too. There you are. Come on back, George. Come on back. There you are. You wanna come on back? Sir, there you are. Okay. Don't be shy. Who's my future mayor here? 3. Great, thank you. Okay, very good. And if anybody wants to leave, this is a good time to leave right now. And the next time on the agenda is public comments. This is an opportunity for members of the public that wishes to speak to City Council on an item that's not on the agenda. You have 5 minutes, and if you have an item you wish to pull off of the consent calendar, if you can announce it at this time too, that'd be great. And if you're on a Zoom or electronic computer device, I asked you to hit the raised hand feature on your electronic device on Zoom. And if you're calling from a strictly phone, just please hit the *9 feature, and that will indicate that you request to speak. So I'm going to hand it over to the city clerk and see if we have any speakers.
Yes, our first speaker is in the audience, Katie Parker.
And then just remind everybody, you do have 5 minutes. Thank you. Hello, Katie.
Hello. Hello, Mayor and council members. My name is Katie Parker, and I'm here tonight to announce that I will be running for Chino Basin Water Conservation District, Division 1, in the upcoming November 8th election. This service area overlaps North Montclair and West Upland, so it is in your service area. So I wanted to come and address you and ask for any kind of support that you could provide me. Some of you know me. I've been in the water field for 30 years. I came here right out of college in 1993 to be a water resource engineer at Inland Empire Utilities Agency. I've also been a policymaker for the last 20 years. So I've served on many boards, many water boards since 1999. One of those was the Chino Basin Water Conservation District, where I was a key board member in bringing recycled water grants to public schools and parks so that they could connect in both Montclair and Upland. So developing recycled water into part of the community's water portfolio has helped us create a more reliable and sustainable local water supply. I'm currently representing you at the San Antonio Water Company as Monte Vista Water District as a minor shareholder there. I also represent you as an alternate board member at the Chino Basin Water Master. So I'm still very much involved in water currently. And as we know, we're currently in a water crisis, and we need experienced individuals in water policy right now to make decisions about how we invest our money in developing our future water supply. And I'm here to tell you that I believe that we can continue to solve our problems through fiscally responsible business practices and water supply management. I am extremely passionate about creating common sense water policy that saves your taxpayers money, and I have extensive experience doing just that. So I want to make sure that the residents of Montclair can turn on the tap and have good quality, sustainable water supply. So I'm here to ask that you support me as a candidate in any way that you can. I gave Andrea a flyer, my campaign flyer. You should have that in front of you. And I want to thank you so much for your community service here at the city, and I hope you have a very productive meeting. Thank you for letting me address you tonight.
Thank you very much. Good luck. Okay.
Now I have a request to speak from Carolyn Raft, and she's on Zoom.
Hello, Carolyn.
Oh, good evening, Council.
evening.
How's everyone? Thank you for allowing me to speak. First, before anything else, I'd like to congratulate all the people and the business that were recognized tonight. It's always wonderful. I love recognizing people in Montclair because that means they know that we really do appreciate them, whether it's a business or individuals that are worthy of being recognized. Secondly, I want to bring you up to date on it's been fairly quiet all year as far as the West Nile virus, but it looks like it's with the heat and everything, it's picking up. So we're informed today that we have 7 cases in Chino. We have 1 new one in Montclair at Ramona in Kingsley. It's getting close. That's the second one now because the other one I did last show. 1 in Ontario and 1 in Upland. So everybody, please, when you're outdoors, wear your repellent because nobody wants to be able to come down with the West Nile virus. So that's basically all I have to say. And I look forward to seeing you hopefully in the next council meeting. I can be there in person. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Carolyn. All right.
Our next speaker is in the audience, Al Villanueva, who would like to speak about county restrooms.
Come up, sir. Hello, how you doing?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and fellow council members. My name is Al Villanueva, and I am chairperson of the Arbor Verde Preservation Committee, a grassroots community organization that was created in 1969 as El Barrio Park Committee. El Barrio Park was constructed in July 1972 to serve the needs of the people residing in the 3 cities of Montclair, Upland, and Claremont that intersected the historic Mexican-American Arbor Verde neighborhood. The Arbor Verde neighborhood was settled by Mexican indigenous peoples from 1908 through 1928. Its Montclair section is the northern part of Montclair, and it is the oldest continuous community in the city of Montclair. The Claremont section of Arbor Verde has been placed on the National Register of Historic Sites by Claremont Heritage. It received its historical designation because the Claremont Intercultural Council helped build, finance, and create in the 1950s the first racially integrated community when racial restrictive covenants and de facto segregation existed here in the Pomona Valley. I grew up in the Upland section, went to Upland schools, and graduated from Stanford University in June 1972. I am retired law enforcement peace officer, and I'm a proud grandparent of 12 grandchildren and the founder of El Barrio Park. I come before you tonight to draw to your attention that a public restroom is being planned to be built in the middle of the Upland Montclair section of the historic Arbo Verde neighborhood at the west entry of the Pacific Electric Trail. The restroom will be built by the San Bernardino County Transportation Authority. Residents were notified by written mail when Tim Watkins, Chief of the Legislative and Public Affairs, SBCTA, did a walkthrough on Huntington Drive and on Blanchard Streets of the historic neighborhood on Thursday, August 4th, 2022. I spoke with Mr. Watkins and his associate a few days ago per telephonic conversation. The public restroom amenity has no connection to the Montclair Station project that is before council tonight for approval, but it will have the same negative impact on the tranquility and peace of the historic Arbo Verde neighborhood. Poor urban planning can best describe the hodgepodge planning of placing a public restroom in the middle of a residential neighborhood. How would you like to have a public restroom located in your front house in Montclair? How would that depreciate your property values? Just imagine the traffic it would attract from homeless persons who camp out near the San Antonio Tree Channel, or the criminal element that will be using the public restroom to vandalize, spread gang graffiti, or use illegal drugs in the public restroom. How can the County of San Bernardino and the City of Montclair promote a false narrative that it will improve a healthier environment and promote the public safety of neighbors when you put a public restroom? This morning, the Claremont Police Department, because I work with the Claremont and the Upland Police Departments, we busted someone, had to knock down the door in the public restroom in El Barrio Park because he was squeaking out. That's the kind of problems we have. Mr. Watkins shared with me that the public restroom will be overseen and maintained by the City of Montclair. Yet the restroom, if built, will be located in the City of Upland. What's up? The Arbo Verde Preservation Committee and its neighborhood residents we just eradicated a Latino street gang known as Clara Monterrifa Gang several years ago, a gang that contributed to the school-to-prison pipeline during the last 50 years. We have enough problems monitoring the public restroom at El Barrio Park and keeping the homeless and criminal element away. I just want to share with you that I had a good conversation with Mr. Watkins, and we're going to see if we can sit down with county and see if we can mitigate it. And I'm going to be working hopefully with Mr. Peterson here regarding the Montclair station, because I really do believe we can use some innovative plans and put the restroom further west.
Well, thank you, sir. Your time's up, and I would suggest this. The San Bernardino County Transportation Authority is actually an independent body of the County of San Bernardino. I serve as a member of that body, representing the City of Montclair, and every city, including Carlos Garcia from the City of Upland, serves in that body. So I would suggest if there's concerns by residents in that area, they address a letter, petition, whatever, to City Manager of Montclair and also Tim Watkins at SBCTA, or Ray Wolf, who is the Executive Director at SBCTA. And if you want to give me a copy, CC me a copy as well, please do so, and we will see what we can do. Oh, Mr. Watkins is fine too. Thank you, sir.
Okay, no, thank you, guys.
Next speaker, please.
Okay. Donald DeBowen,
Come on down.
you're also speaking on the restroom?
Yes.
Okay.
Hello. I'm here for the same reason he is, because in our area we have like a crossbreed between Montclair, Upland, and Claremont. And for that restroom is gonna be right in front of our house too. And as you see, we have a daughter, a newborn, so, and that's gonna be a problem because we already have a homeless problem there. They already burned down the bridge to the electric trail. So we don't already have a problem there. My neighbor we had to call the police because he had a homeless person sleeping in his driveway. So it's already a problem with homeless, and this restroom is gonna create more. We already have a restroom at the park right on the same street, right? There's already a public restroom there. So there's no need for another restroom. That's what I think, at least. That's just my concern, is having a restroom in front of my house. It's gonna bring drugs, gangs, violence. It's gonna bring all this in front of my front door. And that's the only thing I'm trying to keep away from my family.
Well, thank you very much. And again, as I mentioned last speaker, if you guys can have a petition put together, you can address it to a copy of the city manager at Star, a copy to the executive director of SBCTA, Ray Wolf, or to Tim Watkins. And if you want to see me a copy, you can also see a copy to Carlos Garcia, who's a council member of the city of Upland that also serves on the SBCTA. Okay. Thank you.
All right.
And then it looks like Bruce Culp has his hand raised on Zoom.
Okay.
Good afternoon, good evening. Just wanted to, I was really just going to quickly mention congratulations to Denise Johnson on her 41st anniversary. But I just want to take a moment, just talk about restrooms on that trail and facilities on that trail. Now, there's been a couple comments, and I understand the concerns. There's families that live in that neighborhood that are concerned about, certain things. But what I will say is that for those that utilize the trail, you're on a bicycle, you're drinking lots of water, you're running, training for a marathon. I am an avid user of the trail, and I utilize the drinking fountains, restrooms, all up and down the trail. Rancho Cucamonga, Upland just built a new restroom facility in their town. Seems to be working just fine. There are going to be people that are homeless that are going to utilize that, and I understand the concerns there. But these people are human beings. They don't have a home with their own restroom. They need a place to utilize a restroom. And so, what I would say though is also along those lines is a restroom in the middle of a neighborhood probably is not going to get a lot of use because there's just homeless or like gangs, because usually neighborhoods are out and active and children are playing and adults are out there watching their kids. And the elements of criminality usually like to stay in the shadows behind the scenes. And so it's hard for them to do that when there's an active community. So what I would encourage you just to be out and active in your community. And that usually drives away the elements that you prefer not to have there. When you're home alone, you don't know your neighbors and you don't know who's who. That's usually when the criminal elements come along. So get outside. Look, say hi to your neighbors, be out there and active, and they'll find someplace else to do what they need to do in those instances. I know I've lived along that trail. It's 3 different locations in Fontana, Rancho, and here in Montclair. And I have never had a problem in any of the neighborhoods I lived in. We were active. We knew each other. We stayed outside. We had a lot of activities going on, and the more active you are outside, the less of those types of issues that come along. But be empathetic to the homeless people that need to utilize a restroom. I mean, we're all usually one paycheck away from being homeless ourselves. And, where would you go to the restroom if you needed to go and you didn't have a home? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any of the speakers?
I think that was the last. Okay, we do have a
Excuse me,
speaker.
sir,
Do you have the speaker card you filled out?
Yes.
Next issue, but I live right next to First Street and Claremont Boulevard, and I utilize the bike trail as a part of my business. I'm a window cleaner, and I just think what's missing is a sign that points to the restroom that's about 500 feet around the corner.
Thank you. And I just want to remind everybody, the restroom is not on the agenda, so under the Brown Act, we can't talk about it. But as I mentioned earlier, if you want to address in writing regarding this restroom issue, you can address it to the city manager. You can also address it to the San Benito County and Transportation Authority Executive Director Ray Wolf, or also to Tim Watkins, who also works for SBCTA, and you're feel free to CC that letter to me, and also to Carlos Garcia, who happens to be the member on the Upland City Council that serves on SBCTA board along with myself. And Mayor Pro Tem Rue and Councilman Lopez, do you have anything you want to say, or you're on the queue up here? Okay.
That was from earlier, sir.
Perfect. So, we are now going to move on with the agenda, and we have two public hearing items today. And the first public hearing right now we're going to consider is adoption of resolution number 22-3366. This is regarding a proposed development. And I'm going to hand this over to the city manager. This is the proposed development at 4700 Huntington Drive of 302 residential units. And I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to open the public hearing. And second of all, I'm going to ask for a staff presentation.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, Community Development Director Michael Diaz will be leading the presentation this evening.
Good evening, Mayor Dutray and council members. The item before you tonight is, as the mayor indicated, is a 302-unit multifamily development for the 9.96 acre site that formerly where Vulcan Materials, construction materials, formerly operated for decades. The project site is clear at this point. It was cleared at least 3 years ago now, and was put up for sale around the 2018 timeframe. At which point we got a number of would-be developers that wanted to come and do lots of things and not really give us as much as what you'll see tonight. Fortunately, we were able to get Trammell Crow as the current property owner or developer for the site, and you'll see that presentation shortly in a couple of minutes. As was done before the Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission meeting and the City Council meeting for the Alexan project, Trammell Crow is elected to actually run through a PowerPoint presentation themselves, so you'll get to see those pictures and the description of the project in more detail as we proceed. But before their presentation, I wanted to call your attention to some of the documents that are in front of you tonight. The first documents I want to reference to are those under the memo that was provided for you. And in that memorandum, what it describes is the two sets of comments that are written that were sent to us via email this morning and this afternoon from the cities of Claremont and Upland. These are the first substantive comments that we've received from either city since June 27th of earlier this year. They came this morning and this afternoon, and they're presented before you tonight. The items and the issues that are raised in the staff or in their letters are largely things that have been covered in the staff report, and more importantly, things that will be developed or dealt with as a result of a study that a separate project that is underway to actually consider what can be done west of the project site on the existing Huntington Drive frontage that exists currently from Claremont Boulevard. That study will be undertaken by Moulin Polyzoides. It's a consultant that we hired with the express purpose of developing future potential options for making improvements to that street as well as other streets within the North Montclair downtown specific planning area. And the need for that is because as projects are coming along and becoming developed in earnest, I know that we adopted the program or the specific plan in 2006 and then expanded in 2017, and we waited and waited and waited, and now things are beginning to happen. So some of these details with the street improvements need to be fleshed out in more detail with more consideration so that we can make sure that these streets are developed per the plan as was adopted in 2006 and amended in 2017. I just wanted to point out also that the city staff has made ourselves available to meet with the cities of Upland and Claremont, and we have not been able to do that yet since the June 27th meeting with the Planning Commission. So we hope to do that hopefully in the next month to talk about the project and the future potential changes that could happen to Huntington Drive in the future. When the study that involves the streets, that's being done by Mullen Poly Studies is completed, those recommendations and results of that study will be brought back to the city council for your consideration at some point in the future. I can't tell you what time that'll be done, but the intention of staff is to include the cities of of Claremont and Upland, the SPCTA group as well, agency, as well as the residents that are on Huntington Drive to make sure that they're all included in the conversation about what to do in the future here. And as I said, that study is just getting started, and we haven't been able to meet yet, but we are working on getting that underway in earnest in the near future here. So that's the place where most of these the notes that you see and those comments that you have before you will actually be more fully addressed as we move forward. So so just to make sure, just wanted you to know that we sent these comments over to the consultant already so that they can have them for their reference and for consideration as they begin the process of working on that particular study. So the details related to the possible improvements on Huntington Drive west of the subject, as I said, is a separate project. We don't know what they'll all be yet, and so we'll let you know when we're ready to do that. Lastly, I wanted to bring your attention to another document that was provided by the applicant. It's the one with a little bit of red highlighting on it, and these are minor changes that the applicant has requested. When we get to the point where you want to make a decision on the project, they're pretty minor, and they're basically one word or two words to the caption that's above condition number 15 through 20, and that would add the word "or approval" to that particular caption line. The second change would be the addition of a number F or letter F for condition 15 that allows the director or anybody on our staff here, along with the public works directors, to modify some conditions as necessary in case that the developer is having a little more difficult trying to get approvals from other third-party agencies for projects that are, or elements of the project that are around them. The first one that comes to mind is the Army Corps of Engineer, who need to review and approve the bridge, the brand new bridge that's being built across the channel to provide access from Monte Vista to the site. So that's an example of what might be. So that's condition number F, 15F. And then the last one is in condition number 58 of your documents resolution, and that would be to change the construction time from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. rather than 5 p.m. 6 p.m. seemed to be, especially during the summer months, a little bit more reasonable because there's still a lot of daylight in the day for wrapping up things up to that point. Doesn't mean they'll always work to that point, but they can if they needed to. So those are the three changes the applicant has made to, or has asked to have be made to the resolution should you get to that point later tonight. So with that, I am going to just announce that Mr. Reese Peterson from Trammell Crow, along with Alex Schiffer is in attendance, and they represent Trammell Crow Residential. And with that, Reese is going to take it from here and show you the presentation.
Good evening, Council. My name is Reese Pedersen, and I'm here as a representative for Trammell Crow Residential. As you already know, since 2011, the same team presenting you this deal today has been working with city staff to deliver multiple award-winning residential projects within the city, including the Paseos at Montclair North and Alex and Kendry. Over the past 2 years, our consultant team and I have coordinated with city staff and the city's third-party architect reviewer, Mullen Paul Zoides, to shape the project you will vote on tonight. Way to click. Is there a way to turn this on or click?
Told me it was working earlier.
There we go. Okay. The project is named Montclair Station. The site is outlined in yellow in the slide in front of you. The site is located within the North Montclair Downtown Specific Plan. In May 2006, the City of Montclair City Council adopted the North Montclair Downtown Specific Plan and certified the associated final EIR. In March of 2017, the Montclair City Council approved an amendment to the North Montclair Downtown Specific Plan, amending the boundaries and updating the standards of the plan. The main objective of the North Montclair Downtown Specific Plan is to develop an urban-style downtown environment with walkable neighborhoods and higher density residential use in close proximity to local retail and service businesses and convenient access to the rail transit. This development is consistent with the provisions and implements the vision of the North Montclair Downtown Specific Plan. Montclair Station was designed around central looping pedestrian-friendly streets adjacent to a wide pedestrian paseo that connects to all the exterior open spaces and main residential amenities. There's a variety of building types with unique, simple massing forms that march along this paseo as a backdrop to ensure a very interesting streetscape. This project will include 302 new residential units without a reduction in parking request, a new public park. It accommodates future Gold Line rail. It includes approximately 207 new trees and 53,000 square feet of ground cover planting, and dedicates an area for a future bike path. The next few slides include color elevations of our proposed project. The modern farmhouse design combines the sleek lines of contemporary design with the traditional materials of the farmhouse to create a unique, fresh take on country living-inspired style. The upper elevation that you see is Huntington Drive, and the bottom is the private drive within the interior. This is a representation of one of our amenity rooms. We have a saying that the resident comes first, and so we always want to design these buildings with very nice amenity spaces that the residents can enjoy with their friends and family. So this amenity space will actually be opening up to our pool. The top image is an example of our 3-story product. We have a number of these buildings throughout the site that surround our private street. And the bottom elevation is also of that 3-story building. It's just a front elevation where they have direct access to units. Primary access will be from Monte Vista over a newly constructed bridge as part of the development. The area highlighted in yellow represents the construction of future Huntington Drive. Our construction of this drive will extend to Monte Vista Ave to the east and our property line to the west. The project does not change or touch the Pacific Electric Trail. Our team will be responsible for constructing a new bridge over the San Antonio Creek Trail, as shown in the image on the screen. This image is a representative bridge of similar quality constructed in Upland. This project provides many community benefits. We will reserve a future bike path on the eastern portion of our site. We will dedicate and build a 0.43 acre parcel for a park equipped with various amenities, which may include seating, a fenced dog park with gate, and landscaping. We will work with city staff to finalize those plans. We will pay approximately $700,000 in fees to help finance affordable housing development off-site. The project includes nearly 200 trees and over 53,000 square feet of ground cover. The overall design of the project will improve the look of the area, which is currently a dirt lot. The project reserves land to accommodate the future Gold Line rail, and we will be constructing a public street and bridge. You may hear concerns from local residents or other members of the community tonight. We understand that these concerns are real. We understand that growth is difficult, and we want to be good neighbors. With the help of city staff, we hosted a community meeting on July 27th to discuss these concerns. We invited the public to join. The concerns we heard were residents to the west are on septic, concerns regarding traffic on Huntington Drive, and the potential cultural significance of this area. To show that we mean what we say, we have offered to do the following. Extend the sewer stub connection to the west boundary of our property, making way for residents to possibly hook up to the sewer system. contribute towards culturally sensitive improvements with a new trailhead park, support the inclusion of traffic calming measures on Huntington Drive to slow down traffic, for example, speed bumps and signs, support a fully landscaped and tree-lined street for the full length of Huntington Drive. In summary, this project is consistent and conforms with the provisions of the North Montclair Downtown Specific Plan, is consistent with the CEQA analysis of part of the North Montclair Downtown Specific Plan, provides 302 new market rate rental units to help with the California Housing Accountability Act, and revitalizes a formal gravel quarry with active uses by an award-winning design team and developer. Myself and our consultant team are here for your questions and look forward to discussing the project. Also on the Zoom call, we have our traffic engineer and our civil team. I truly appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and I know you brought up some of the mitigating factors regarding the neighborhood concerns, and maybe after we're done with the public hearing, if staff can identify which conditions they're in the resolution, that'd be good enough for the council to know that, and they can see the language related to that. And then at this time, it's already open, but we're going to allow for a public hearing. There's an opportunity for members of the public to speak on this item. You'll have 5 minutes, and I'm going to allow the city clerk to announce those individuals.
Our first speaker is Lydia Henry, and she is on Zoom.
Hello, Lydia.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. My name is Lydia Henry. I'm a long-term Arbol Verde resident. I've owned my home and lived in the neighborhood for over 30 years. I'm concerned about the connection of Huntington Drive. If it goes all the way through, it is going to become a thoroughfare. It defies common sense to think that people aren't going to want to go straight from First Street in Claremont and Claremont Boulevard through Huntington to get to the Montclair Trans Center, because that way you don't have to go down to Arrow Highway or up to Arrow Route. This is a concern because of safety. As designed, Huntington Drive is a residential street. It's not going to be able to accommodate it being a thoroughfare. Huntington Drive, the current part of Huntington Drive is also not wide enough. I previously gave Mr. Diaz math details about why I think it is unsafe. And as a courtesy, I'm not going to go through those details right now. I think it's great that there's going to be more cooperation with traffic studies as outlined earlier in the presentation. But when there's not enough room to start with to have a thoroughfare, even if it's not labeled as a thoroughfare, it's a real safety concern. I'm pleased to hear that a sewer hookup will be brought to the neighborhood. They've been ignored in this regard for far too long. I hope that the city of Montclair will commit to extending that and providing hookups for all residents who wish to be hooked up to the sewer. Then I have one final comment about a bathroom. I think bathrooms need to be put at the park that is going to be part of the development at the trailhead of the Pacific Electric Trail and the proposed San Antonio Trail. That's an appropriate place for them to be at the intersection of two trails, especially when the park has not yet been planned for details. The existence of it's been planned, but no details have worked out. So we have a great opportunity to incorporate a bathroom at this location and work with this county of San Bernardino to cooperate placing a bathroom at that location. So thank you very much, and good evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
All right, the next speaker is Michael Keenan, the audience.
Hello, Michael.
Hi. Hey, I used to bowl at the Bowlium when I was a youth. I lived on Bandera. That was the first residence I had when I came to Claremont. And it was an all field there and just the Bowlium. So that brought up some fond memories. I hope they have some youth stuff going on there. Bowling it was a great time. All right, so I just want to start out. I went to the webpage to go and get documents, and it's an informationless webpage. The city it's very hard to get any kind of information. I can go to Claremont and go in and go right into the archive and pull out anything I want. And I shouldn't have to come down here to look at something that's already, I mean, this is called the internet, I think, and I know how to use it and look these things up. I shouldn't have to come down here just to see these things, these related to the project. All right. So I noticed in the specific plan that you don't use the typical land use development codes, that it's some other kind of concept, and I couldn't find anywhere that explained what the great scale on typical California land use and development law. So I'm wondering, what is that concept? And I couldn't find that anywhere. Because I was so surprised by that. I went to the meeting, Mr. Diaz was there. I don't remember talking about eminent domain at all. But he said that when I get control, I do remember that. And then there was a mention of the traffic study. Well, when I went and looked at the specific plan, it had the west side of the precise plan, this project. It showed that it was already developed with 3-story whatever. So the residents that live there, are they going to be eminent domain anyway? So, because it makes the sewage thing sort of undecided or up in the air. Because if you're going to put buildings in there, and that's what it showed, it pictured it. The residents that live there now, that wasn't there. It was all new development. So I am wondering if that's what the eminent domain would have been about or not. It's not just a street, right? And would we need another traffic study? Because if you're going to do that, you're going to need another traffic study. That's obvious. So it was a little bit confusing, but my model and my resolution for tonight would be to do just like on the north side of the bike trail, which I utilize every day. They have an emergency gate at the back of that complex, that we should put an emergency gate at the back of this complex. And that would be it. Because if you're really going to develop that other side and you haven't been forthcoming about that, let's go back, let's step back and talk about this again with that consideration, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next speaker, please.
Next is Al Villanueva.
Hello again.
Hi.
And I did appreciate the little history of the neighborhood. Appreciate that. Thank you, Al.
And I wanted to thank you, Mayor, for recognizing my law enforcement brothers that are taking very negative hits right now.
Absolutely correct.
And I'm not going to get into the politics. I support this project for one reason. My maternal grandfather worked for Kenneth Pitzer, the ranch, and he was exploited. I mean, he was a lemon picker, but they opened up the door so we could achieve the American dream. Here I sit 3 generations later, I was able to get out of the barrio and go to a good school and achieve the American dream. Problem I have is with Claremont, because I live in Claremont, but I'm moving back into Upland, because I have to take care of my 90-year-old mother, is affordable housing. This project will satisfy affordable housing in the Pomona Valley in terms of especially communities of colors or even white families who want to achieve the American dream, because it's very restricted. So I support the project. I just want to echo what Ms. Henry said. I think that if we sit down and collaborate with the applicant, we can make it happen, okay? Because our concerns are, number one, priority in terms of our neighborhood right now. is public safety. I will say one thing. I monitor gang behavior in the Pomona Valley. Gangs have erupted, especially in the Latino and African American communities. And so the developments that these gentlemen have done has not resulted in gang behavior or criminal behavior in that area in Montclair. So I trust them, okay? That's our number one concern. Most of the residents in Arbo Verde, we don't want the gang to come back. So I'm looking forward to working with Reese and the rest of the people, the city, and see if we can make it happen, but make it safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
And it looks like Carolyn Raft has her hand raised on Zoom.
Carolyn, can you hear us?
Have it raised, but I look forward to it. I think it's a great project, and I've been waiting for something to happen to that property for a long time, and especially to join all the way from Monte Vista down to Mills. I think it's great, and I look forward to you guys getting it done, and I can't wait for the project to be finished. I think it's really nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And then Bruce Colt.
All right, Bruce, you there? Hello, Bruce?
I'm here.
Okay,
Hello?
it's all yours.
Okay. Well, generally speaking, I'm supportive of a project like this. I don't know if I'm totally in support of this project as it stands now. I think Councilman Rue and I would agree that there's, missing parts of it. He mentioned in the last meeting that he can't support something that he doesn't know what he's voting on. We don't know what the bridge is going to be like. There's no agreement with the Army Corps of Engineers, so we don't know what that's going to be. If it's going to be made out of paper cups glued together, or if it's going to be cement or whatever. So I suspect that Mr. Rue is going to have some problems with something that he doesn't know what he's voting for, so he'll have to vote against it unless he goes against his better judgment, as he mentioned in the last meeting. There was a mention that they're going to contribute $700,000 to affordable housing in other areas of the city, and that there may or may not be sewer lines given to these residents that have been waiting decades for it. So maybe the solution here is, save the $700,000, build the sewer lines for these residents that have been waiting on the city to do something for them, and make the housing there at that project affordable. That's not a big leap of faith in any case. These are, homes that should be affordable in the north end of the city too. Why should the north end be unaffordable and unattainable to everybody else? I know Mr. Rue in the past has had some problems with pushing costs onto these developers, thinking that maybe they'll push them back onto the residents. These developers make millions upon millions of dollars. They can afford to make these things affordable. They can afford to absorb costs on their own. And this is, a logical step. Lastly, I would say do not make that a street go through, that Huntington Drive. That is absolutely, as these residents' concerns are, that will be a thoroughfare. There's just, I have to go around and, of course, I would love to go through that street, but I don't want to interrupt a quiet neighborhood like they have there. And the trail is enough. I think there needs to be a permanent understanding that there will not be a thoroughfare built through that community there. They are a small, historic part of the city that needs to be preserved the way it is. And I ask each and every council member to support these small changes and vote no until they can make this their way. Thank you very much for hearing me.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
That's it.
That's it? Okay, so we'll go ahead and close the public hearing for this item here. And I know that Councilmember Lopez stepped out for a second. So I'm going to start with Councilmember Denise Johnson. Let's start with questions first before we get into comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question for Mr. Peterson. And a moment ago, as you did the presentation, you talked to us about street calming.
What was that?
Street calming.
Yes.
And so my question for you is, where is that? Is that on Huntington Drive or is it in other cities? I am concerned with Ms. Henry's concerns about traffic through there, but are there traffic calming plans on Huntington Drive is my question.
So the extent of Huntington Drive that we have from the west of our property line all the way to Monte Vista, we're open to working with city staff in designing traffic calming measures. We've designed this road to the widths and the requirements of the specific plan for this project. And so we're just, as we're working through and getting through our next set of plans before we have our final building permit issuance, we can introduce those traffic calming measures however city staff feels appropriate.
Thank you. And I have one other question. Well, I should know, but I don't. How wide is Huntington Drive currently, and will that change after this project is complete?
I will let the city engineer answer that.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Yes, so to answer your question, the width of the Huntington Drive will remain the same that it's currently. It's 40 feet wide. It would accommodate two or one-way lanes throughout the entire reach. So it will remain from Monte Vista or Rickton to Claremont Boulevard. So it will remain a neighborhood roadway for 25 miles per hour. And in coordination with our consultant, M&P, or Molson Polazoids, they will analyze this segment of road and look at how do we design this road. And it will include, probably we'll look at traffic calming measures so that it remains a slow speed roadway through this project and through the existing roadway.
So if I understood you correctly, I just want to make sure I got it right. There's one lane in each direction. This is not
Yes.
like a 4-lane highway.
No.
Okay, got it. Thank you very much.
Sure.
And thank you, Mr. Peterson.
And do you want me to go to the conditions with some of these? You asked earlier.
Go through the conditions that we're speaking of, if you don't mind, I appreciate that.
No, since I'm here, I might as well do that. So if you look at your conditions on page 48 of your packet, or 17 of the resolution. Actually, sorry about that. No, it's more the next page. If you look at page 18 of 24 of the resolution, starting on number 115.
And that's for the sewer study. It's only for a sewer study, it's not.
Oh, just for the sewer, I thought you meant
There's
the.
no sewage installation, just a
Yeah, no,
sewage
we do have,
study.
yes,
Just
we do.
clarify that.
Yes.
Thank you.
I suggest we start with, just to take them in order so you can go logically through the conditions. Condition number 20 on page 9 of the resolution, or 40 of your overall packet. At the bottom of the page almost, there's a condition number 20, and it starts with initiate the process of working with staff and representatives of the Arbor Verde Neighborhood Preservation Committee to develop appropriate means for recognizing the historic and cultural significance of Huntington Drive community. So that's the first one that deals with the cultural aspects that Mr. Villanueva talked about.
And that's to decide the location, the design, and who's paying for it.
Yes, the whole, basically the whole works. So
The developers.
let them.
Yeah, so we have offered to work with the community to do something that is maybe a plaque or something as part of this project.
Okay.
And so, you know, I'm going to give my cell phone to Al, Mr. Nuevo, after this, and we are happy to sit down and go through that. And we will be
Guys,
paying for that.
Thank you very much.
So if I'm going to go to condition 115, and that's the one you were talking about, which is the sewer study to explore the options of bringing sewer to the area, particularly the south side of Huntington Drive that serves the residents of Montclair on
That's
Huntington
only
Drive.
for a study to consider options for sewer to the south side of Huntington Drive.
Right, and as the applicant indicated, they'll extend the sewer line on the south side of their property all the way to the east boundary or to the west boundary that might allow for the easternmost properties on Huntington Drive to easily hook up to that line and move, and then benefit from there. But
But-
because of grade and everything else,
Right.
we have to figure out how to get the rest from the west side.
But if each of the owners want to connect in that sewer line, that's a separate deal. They have to pay for their own connection fee.
Yeah, they'll have to
Or
figure out
connection
how to
cost.
get the, not only work through the actual elements of constructing a sewer line to serve each one of their properties. And right now, there are about 16 properties of various shapes and sizes
Right.
on Huntington Drive that they'll have to go through that exercise to figure out how to get the sewer line, wherever it comes available, from the east and or from the west.
Right.
Onto their properties.
Got it. Go ahead, Ben.
Real quickly, what item were you just discussing? Because I was making notations on item 20.
15. On
Which one?
page 49.
Back to the one that Monica was bringing up, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll let you go.
Thank you. All right.
No worries.
All right.
Thanks. So yeah, so Mike covered condition number 15 relating to the sewer.
115.
Then we are going to go to the conditions starting at 125.
125.
Regarding the bridge.
Let's see what this says here.
So there's an existing bridge there that they need to analyze and see if it can be removed. Again, but that's subject to the Army Corps of Engineers approval.
If the Army Corps of Engineers says no, then there's an issue, right? A huge
Well,
issue.
I'm talking about an existing bridge that's just south of the current bridge.
Right.
So the bridge that's there right now that used to serve the Vulcan property,
Yeah.
that will be removed entirely with the new bridge. And I think Reese showed a similar bridge in the city of Upland.
Yeah.
So they will have to remove that existing bridge and put a new one.
But that's part of this condition 125?
That's part of a later one. It's number 131.
131 is that bridge.
Yes.
125 is a different bridge,
Yeah, it's just south of that.
just south of it.
Mm-hmm.
Mayor, if I can clarify, the bridges that Reese showed in his presentation are bridges directly north, upstream on the same channel.
Right.
In Upland, so.
But still, you need Army Corps of Engineers approval, which you probably get approval. It's going to take some time to get the approval. And of course, it's all about the engineering of it. And then of course, they're probably less suspect of design as long as they're not paying for the design. So,
Yes, and the developer will have to do all of that, get the permits, and
Right.
they will take a long time, but I believe they're waiting for this project to get approved so they can get started on that
of
process.
course, we expect a higher end design for
Yeah.
that bridge.
And
Okay.
based on the track record of what's approved just upstream, we're confident we're not gonna have too many difficulties.
Perfect. Okay, that's 125. Any questions there? Nope. Okay.
Any questions there? No. On 126, we talked about
126.
the trail. I'm just bringing up some of the key conditions. Modification to the traffic signal on Monte Vista and Rickton to provide for left turn phasing. Currently, that signal intersection doesn't have one, so I think it would be appropriate.
That's 127.
That's 127. Thank you. 128 is future improvements along Huntington Drive. They will work with us and M&P to provide those improvements that will be identified through a process of involving the cities of Upland, Claremont, SBCTA, and the neighborhoods in that area.
And then
So
one-
whatever recommendations, they'll come up with different, M&P will come up with different alternatives, we'll have workshops,
Right.
and we'll make a decision on how that connection should be.
The connection starting at the development's west property line
To Claremont Boulevard.
all the way to Claremont Boulevard.
Right, but that study will also inform what can happen on the section of Huntington Drive that's on their property or adjacent to their property directly. So
Okay.
it's beneficial on both counts.
And who's paying for that study?
Well, we already have M&P.
You already have, okay.
Yes,
You're already
yes.
on board and I started.
Yes.
So our next step is to have a meeting with all the stakeholders and go from there. But I guess first, M&P will have to develop some, different alternatives to bring back and discuss the issues, that has been brought up here, and some of the comments that we received from both cities of Upland and
Claremont.
Claremont. 129 talks about contributing a fair share of future roadway improvements along Huntington Drive, west of the project site. So any signal modifications that may be needed at that west end, per the recommendations of this project, the North Montclair Streetscape Master Plan.
The fair share doesn't mean the developer pays 100% of the cost. It's just based upon whatever formula we come up with.
Correct.
And the city may have to cover the gap. And then in the future, if somebody else were to come in and develop that site, they will have to reimburse the cities. It's that gap, basically.
Correct.
That's how it works. Okay.
Yes. Any questions on that? All right.
Thank you.
And then 131 was the new bridge that we just discussed. So it'll be a bridge that will accommodate vehicle traffic, pedestrians, cyclists, so to connect to existing bike lanes on Monte Vista. Installation of no overnight parking signs along Huntington Drive, along the whole frontage of the site, but also as part of our efforts with MNP of the North Montclair Streetscape Master Plan, we were also analyzed to see if we need to extend that, even along the parking that is, I believe there's 24 parking spots by the PE trail. So maybe we need to modify or put signs there as well.
What number is that?
Number 132.
32, okay.
And I think that's,
Those
are the major ones.
Okay.
That,
And then I heard about traffic calming. Does that include putting humps in, or is that going to be based on the study, meeting with the residents, and determining if that's a good mitigation or not?
Yes and yes. So the humps is part of the
Residents may come back and say, we
tools.
don't want humps there, or if we want a hump, put it over
The
there,
better
put
way
it over
to-
here, but don't put it over here, perhaps.
There's a better way to
But
control
we're going to
traffic
work with
speed, yes.
the Huntington Drive residents on if the humps are, where they're going to go if they're needed. And as far as parking in front of the development, that's restricted, am I correct?
It's a public parking open to everybody, but it'll be one of the ones we consider where we do no overnight parking as well across the frontage. So that not only the parkings those spaces are not assignable to any of the units in the complex, but the overnight parking will control what happens on and who parks on that
That's
street.
not part of the count for this project, the parking count.
They were considered part because as part of the count for guest parking, because that's what the specific plan allows
Okay.
for. So during the daytime hours, up until whatever that time is that you can't park overnight, they would be available for guest parking and other guests that are in the neighborhood.
Yeah, okay, so again, staff will be looking at as far as parking restrictions, the time, wherever that time limit is going to be.
The one
All
thing
right.
we don't control is the parking spaces that are on SBCTA's property.
On the north side.
Right, so whatever limits on those parking spaces might come about, or will have to be negotiated with SBCTA to see what they can do. I don't know whether they're controlled now at the moment, so I can't answer that question if you ask me.
Yeah, I would suggest we work with SBCTA to make sure that it's consistent on the north side and the south side as far as parking restrictions there, so. Okay, Councilman Lopez, questions?
Yes, several, a lot. I have problems with this. The project that was before us 2 weeks ago, a month ago on Arrow and Monte Vista was great. I wish I could say the same about this. I have hesitations. First question to staff. In our staff report on page 14, second paragraph under public notice, it states, although the cities of Claremont and Upland do not have jurisdiction over the proposed project, staff sent a copy of the staff report via email to the respective directors of community development. To date, staff has not received new comments from these communities regarding the Montclair Station project. What date was that email sent to those respective counterparts in those cities?
They were sent for the meeting at the Planning Commission in June. I don't remember the exact date. And the last emails regarding this particular project were sent out on Thursday evening when the agenda was made available. We send them via email because they're so large and you'll never get them on time if you put them in the mail, and then you'll get them Monday morning when the meeting happens. So they're immediately delivered via link through the email process.
I'm fine with the manner in which it was said. I want to try to let's assume that they were emailed and notified on June 17th, which is the same day that this was published in the newspaper, to announce the July 27th meeting. Let's assume they got everything on the 17th. That isn't even 2 months. 2 days from now, it'll be 2 months that they've had the opportunity to look this over. And they just responded today to the plan. In reading their letters, I think the city of Upland has some valid concerns and points that were just conveyed today. So I find it hard that the conditions would address the city of Upland's concerns, because the date of their concerns is today. And by the way, I want to later ask the developer, in some of the discussion between staff and the mayor, there was some perplexed faces by the developer, and I wanted to see if those discussions were indeed what you guys had heard or agreed to, because you'd seem perplexed and it kind of caught me off guard. Because if this is new that you're hearing about it, I'd like to hear why the perplexed faces. The city of Upland states, while the new development of residential housing is welcome in general, the proposed development would need to include adequate supporting infrastructure to make the development viable and to mitigate the impacts of the proposed development to surrounding residents, existing road users, and facilities. It states that the technical memorandum did not consider the potential trips that may be attracted to Huntington Drive when it is extended as a two-way street connecting Claremont Boulevard to Monte Vista. It also says that that same study took only into account traffic around the development and not the exterior streets, if you will, which no doubt will be impacted. I was at the site today. I was at Claremont Boulevard and Huntington. I looked at it in the heat. Presently, the trail's in the middle. There is a eastbound Huntington going on the south and westbound Huntington going on the north. The north being up and the south side being Montclair. No doubt, folks, word is going to get out. They're going to go up Mills, which turns into Claremont Boulevard, and they're going to go bypass Monte Vista, especially with the construction going on at the 10, bypass Monte Vista, and use Huntington to cut across just to get away from all that traffic in that area. And they don't even have to live there. Hell, I'll do that. I'll avoid the traffic and I'll use Huntington if it's extended. But I have a problem with Huntington being extended for the very same reasons that Mr. Villanueva said, Ms. Henry said, Mr. Nash said in written correspondence. Has there ever, and I have plenty more questions, so just this one does not mean I'm done. Has there ever been any thought to extending Huntington from Monte Vista going west to making it more or less a roundabout or cul-de-sac type setting instead of it going all the way through to presently what is Huntington Drive? Sure, absolutely.
Thank you, Member Lopez, for the concerns. This project, we have spent 2 years going back and forth with city, working on this street, working on the public standards to make sure that we are designing something that's adequate. And what we had designed to is a road that was already approved. This was approved as part of the specific plan. Today, you are not voting on anything west of our subject site. That's a separate approval as city works on the plan with Moule and Paul Zoides. We are specifically designing something that is to our the specific plan and the traffic studies that were done in association with that. We do have our traffic engineer on the phone, and we have considered the through traffic as you have suggested as part of our technical studies, which Dennis Pasquale can talk to if there's a way that we can allow him to speak.
Sure.
Hi, good evening, City Council. This is Dennis Pasquale Dudek. We prepared the traffic study for the project. Yeah, in our technical memorandum on Figure 3, we do account for the reassignment of traffic volumes related to the extension of Huntington Drive. And you'll see that what happens is the traffic volumes that are turning away from Huntington are now routed through Huntington. So we assumed about a 25% of those volumes at the intersections at Rickton on the east side and Claremont Boulevard on the west side, 25% of those turning volumes would actually go through Huntington. And with that, when that happens, that 25% of traffic gets reduced at those other intersections at Arrow Route and Arrow Highway, because now they're going through Huntington. So our study did account for the reassignment of traffic volumes due to the extension of Huntington Drive.
But to my question, though, what about consideration of a dead-end street, a cul-de-sac, if you will, instead of a street all the way through existing Huntington Drive? Was that even discussed or considered, whether that was city staff in 17? I wasn't here in 17. Or was that something the developer took into account?
So basically, they they followed what was approved in the North Montclair specific plan. So if you look at that plan, Huntington Drive was planned to go through from when that plan was approved. So what they're doing is basically what the plan calls for, what the specific plan was approved. Huntington Drive connects from Rickton all the way to Claremont Boulevard. So a roundabout or a cul-de-sac was not considered because per the specific plan, Huntington Drive will connect on either end.
And that latter statement is your answer to my question, and I appreciate that. A great deal of the mistrust from some of the residents in the area that presently live on Huntington is the statement that city consultants will continue looking at the properties for any future development or any future amenities to be installed. And it is the southern side of Huntington that is Montclair. So we obviously can't touch Upland. What those residents are concerned about is the historical significance of the property being bastardized and eliminated, if you will. There presently is a rock there which commemorates sacred, hold on, I took a picture of it.
Former church.
Sacred Heart Chapel from 1928 to 1968. This initiative, resources, and labor of the original families of the Arbor Verde community built their house of worship and made holy this ground. That's key words there. May their spirit live in this new small community of homes built upon this heritage. Now, I want more than just a nice plaque being put there, because there's already a plaque and a rock. If all you're going to do is try to assuage these folks and pay homage to the significance of the property by a plaque, I find that offensive, because there's much more significance to that property there. That property was there before the city was there. We have 3 generations, as Mr. Villanueva just said. His mother, 90-year-old mother, is still alive, and she could attest to the significance of that property. The original church property is on the corner of that building, and I believe the old rock cobblestone building the frame is still there. Those families that are there, no doubt, if they haven't sold, they've been passed down from generation to generation. Many of the Montclair families that live on San Jose Street, they live on Exeter, they live on Ramona, they all have ties to the area, and they don't want to see it developed. Now, I know that's outside the scope of your development, but my concern is, and this is what they've shared, once this is developed, who's to say that the smallest chunk of land isn't taken over and absorbed and swallowed up? And that's the concern. We have one historic family. She's an infamous lady who is an actress. Her great-grandmother is from Montclair. Her family still has ties here. They very much care about the significance of that street. The last name of that family is Alba. It's things like that that I have a hard time going along with. And it is, if we give them an inch, they take a mile type mentality. I am concerned about Huntington Drive. I'm not concerned. Notice I haven't touched on anything about your development itself, because I'm fine with the buildings, the layout, fine with it. It's just that street and what's to come next. You answered my question based on the presentation that the street would be below the trail. However, what exists right now under that trail is about maybe 10 parking spots and some cemented little walkway, and then it abuts right up against that street, and it abuts right to those neighbors, pretty close, some of those front doors of those properties. So the question is, well, maybe you're not the appropriate person to ask this question. If you're not, I apologize, but I'm concerned about any future look that Polyzoids may do on changing the landscape of the Montclair portion of that street. And I do think it deserves a better historical recognition than just a simple little plaque, because I can go down the store and get a bronze plaque. Hell, we have bronze plaques here on City Hall. I'm uneasy, and I can empathize with those families, but first and foremost, Claremont and Upland just weighed in as of today, and that was before these conditions were after these conditions were printed. That was after our agenda was printed. I think we need to hold up on the project right now. There obviously is no rush, since we obviously have to take into account the Army Corps of Engineers with the bridge, because that's going to take time. There is no need to rush this through. We have plenty of time for you guys to sit with those stakeholders, including the city, and hash this out. There is no rush. So I say we just postpone this and move it. And if you do that, and everyone acts in good faith, you'll get my vote. But at the present time, I got to listen to some very valid concerns that our neighboring cities have brought to the table, and I'm leery of any future thought and consideration as to what's going to happen to that property.
Mr. Lopez, do you mind that I respond?
I do not mind at all.
There's a lot there, so I kind of want to break it down a little bit, if you don't mind. When we held the community meeting with the help of city staff, we sat down because we heard during our planning commission hearing from Mr. Al Nuevo that this is a cultural significant area. And we can do more than a plaque. We're taking an area that used to be part of the county land that was then annexed into the city of Montclair. And unfortunately, when we offered these things, Al could not make it to the hearing, but his nephew did. And his nephew gave us the response that there is no cultural significance to this property. And we said, well, we want to work with your uncle because we heard there was. And we will go out of our way to make sure that you guys are satisfied. We're trying to take a piece of property, and make it better. And we're not here to be bad neighbors. We believe that we're good neighbors, and we believe we're here to help the community. So a plaque is just a start. We said that we do artwork. We will work with them, and we're open to that communication. So it's not just the plaque is just a symbol of us working with them. Whatever they want to do, we're happy to help. And so that's why we held the community hearing. Also, the concern about the road. This was part of something that was already approved. We're trying to conform. If you disapprove this project, it's directly in and conforms with the specific plan that the city has approved that shows a road coming through. We're trying to improve this area, and you will have the right and time to vote on the extension of Huntington when it comes in front of you in City Council again. When it's not part of this project, it's a separate approval. And so we want to make sure that you see that we have no control over stuff that is off of our site. This was something that was already approved before we acquired or even started planning this. That was not our decision to extend Huntington. We have absolutely no control over that. So we want to make sure that the plan and the third-party consultant team, when they're studying this, is something that's beneficial. And the last thing that I want to touch on, I want to keep it short, I apologize, is that the timeline with the Army Corps of Engineers. We cannot go to the Army Corps of Engineers until we have a fully designed bridge, until we have an approved project. We have been working on this project for 2 years. If this project is continued and we continue to push this off, there will be no project. It will stay a gravel quarry. We have worked very hard with city staff to come up with a design that is respectful on the lower end of the density that is allowed in the specific plan, and we want to make sure that we're doing something that's right for the community. And our first step is asking for your approval here today so that we can work with the concerned community members. They will have my cell phone so we can sit down so that we can work on the art, we can work on whatever shows the cultural significance that turns this gravel yard into something that is beautiful for the residents, brings trees, brings ground cover, brings a new bike trail. There are countless benefits of this project that help the community. And so if we disapprove this project, those could all go away.
And I appreciate you stating, for the record, that the parameters in which you were given, being this downtown specific plan, is what you're working with. I acknowledge that. So if there's if you're of the belief that I'm somehow chastising you guys for that road extension, one, that is not what I'm trying to convey. I apologize if that is the message you're getting from me. That's not my intent. I am upset that it be extended, possibly, and turning it into a thoroughfare from the Claremont Boulevard side going east all the way to Monte Vista. I think that's inevitable. That's a bump or a speed bump because of speed regulations or whatnot. And then all of a sudden, I mean, is that going to be extended all the way to Monte Vista, all the way through? I appreciate it. And as far as there's no historical significance, COVID killed the annual picnic at El Barrio Park, where hundreds of families would show up from Upland, Pomona, Claremont, Montclair. There is a significance, so don't let anyone tell you otherwise, because it is, and it means a lot to not the Latin community, the Mexican community in this area.
Absolutely.
That park is the go-to. I mean, everyone talks about it to this day. That's how I knew about it, because I have 2 generations ahead of me that use that park. So it's definitely of importance, but I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
And please know that we take that seriously.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm going to reopen the public hearing. I'm sorry, Mike. Yeah, I have Amen Nash who wants to speak, so I want to reopen it just for one person only. You have 5 minutes, sir.
5 minutes?
5 minutes to speak,
Awesome.
yes.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. My name is Amin Nash. My father, Mohammed Nash, he actually sent you guys a letter.
Yes.
I live, if you look at this map right here, I'm the property right there next to those trees. I'm literally that property right there, the whole side. Huntington Drive is too small, guys. It really is too small. Today I was leaving and there was 2 trucks right there. It took me almost a minute to get out. My family and I, we love that street. We love our house. We added trees. There's history behind that house, those homes. There's like 3 generations that used to live on that house before us, before we came in. And the neighbors, we love the neighbors. We love that neighborhood. I mean, it's a beautiful place to be, but that house, that street right now, Huntington, if there's developments on there, there's 2 trucks that were there earlier this morning. I don't know if you saw them when you were walking there. You said you were there earlier. There was 2 trucks right there surveying the land. It took me like an extra 30 seconds to get out of that house. It literally took me another 30 seconds. And, I understand that, your project might be on hold if, you want to put it up. I understand your project might be on hold, but I don't think you should hold it up to the city that it's going to be on hold. It's okay to look at another street. Monte Vista on the other side is huge. Huntington Beach is the Huntington Drive is too small. The designs you guys actually have your designs going over our driveway. It's going over us, and the way you're designing it is kind of like not accommodating for the neighbors, not accommodating for us. This might be the first time you've actually seen a neighbor. I know you've been there, but there's a lot of people that actually live there. My point is that this is, as everybody said, this is a historic street. It's very important to me, my family. We moved here, we moved here 6 years ago, and we're so proud to have that land. So proud to redevelop it. But Huntington Drive right now, as it is, especially with those new bike lane, the new parking lots that they just installed, they're talking about installing a bathroom on the upland side. There's just a lot of things going on that I think just needs a little more consideration. And if you want to expand Huntington Drive, if it's already in the plans or anything like that, work with the city in some way. I'm not a professional in specific zones or specific zone plannings or anything like that. But if you can work with the city to think of some kind of roundabout that is similar to College Park or anything like that, that would be super helpful, because right now, if there are 302 new residential units, you're expecting each person to have a car. You're looking at 300 cars that can be driving back and forth at any time. We're stuck. How are we gonna get out? We're stuck. I'm literally on that side right there. My driveway is on that wall. We're stuck. So I just hope that, I do want to say I appreciate, other accommodations. You guys have done, pretty nice job in talking to us and everything like that. When it comes to the past 2 years, we have one call, and that call, no, actually, when my dad and I moved there in 2017, we had one call. That phone call was actually to purchase the land for $1 million. not just our lands, but other lands. That's the only phone call we've had in the last like 5 years since we've been there. It's only been heating up in the last couple of years about it. So, you know, like, I think it's okay to put it on hold. I really think, and I think the city's okay to put it on hold or anything like that, just to accommodate for any other developments on the land. I don't want to like, I think it's good. I think it's a good thing to have for Montclair. I think it's a good thing to have that there. I just don't think, you know, making people get stuck on Huntington Drive like that is kind of, it's a little tough to swallow, you know? And once again, I don't want to like ruin this project because I think the project is actually going to help a lot of people in the long run. There's a lot of students, there's a lot of people that can benefit from it. So thank you guys for listening to me.
Thank you. Close the public hearing. Michael?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a couple of clarifications. The first and biggest one, and I think Reese already talked about it, is just so that everybody's clear, this project doesn't require any changes to the existing right-of-way in Huntington Drive as it exists today. So that's why we have the other study to figure out what it is that can be done. It's probably not going to change a lot from its current condition because of the fixed parameters on the north side with SPCTA's property. The property owners on the south side have a property line where that's the limit too. And to answer the question about eminent domain, there is no eminent domain in any way, shape, or form that's been ever talked about or discussed, at least by staff. Those are questions that we answered at the El Barrio Park meeting that we had with about 15 to 20 individuals from El Barrio Park. That meeting was put together by Mr. Villanueva, and we, that is Monica Heredia and myself, attended that meeting. It was cordial, it was nice, and we answered a lot of questions during that evening, or during that day. It's been 50 days since the June 27th meeting when Upland and Claremont were notified about the project, and we made 2 offers to them to meet with them to discuss it in further detail, none of which, those meetings didn't occur. The last correspondence I got this morning, and you might see it in the one of the staff reports, is they're offering to meet us in September because they're on vacation, and city of Claremont, which I used to work for, goes on vacation hiatus in the month of August. So there's been plenty of time to be able to have this conversation and to answer some of these questions. The Upland letter, if you read it carefully and you read the staff report carefully, many of the issues that were raised are already going to be dealt with and or have been dealt with in some ways. For example, the question about the bridge being built over the channel, if they read the staff report, it's going to be a brand new, and the conditions of approval, there'll be a brand new bridge built over that, so the concerns about the existing seismic resistance of the bridge that's there now will be taken care of with the new project. In regard to the cultural significance aspect of this project, that item was brought up to during the June 27th meeting at the Planning Commission meeting. And Mr. Villanueva and myself met, and then when we had a subsequent meeting on July 5th at El Barrio Park, that whole conversation about doing something appropriate for that particular neighborhood was discussed. That was brought up to Mr. Reese and Alex Schiffer from Trammell Crow. They both understood and acknowledged that there was a need, and they offered to do something to help with that recognition in the future going forward. How that got sort of played out is whether it's an art piece somewhere or it's some kind of fence design to celebrate the neighborhood, maybe a plaque, maybe things inside it. Those are all to be negotiated, and condition number 20, or I think it is 19 or 20, that we had earlier identified is that effort to initiate that process, because we haven't been able to meet with the neighborhood since then to discuss that particular issue in particular. So it's something that's going on, something that Trammell Crow has both publicly said a number of times that they're willing to commit themselves to doing, and we just have to figure out how that gets done. In fact, at the July 27th meeting where we invited the public, but only 3 people showed up, Mr. Dominguez, who is the cousin of Mr. Villanueva, not his nephew, but his cousin, was at the meeting, and he represented information that Lydia Henry and himself put together, and that was the copy of that letter that they provided was in your packet. And then Mr. and Mrs. Gonzalez were there as well. and we all talked about the significance of the neighborhood, and everybody seemed to be related in some way, in some short fashion. But we talked about how important it was, and I think there was general consensus and agreement that we could move forward, and they understood that. Mr. Villanueva himself speaking tonight, you heard him speak in support of the project. He was the first person to contact us about his concerns with it, and he seems to be now fully in support of the project going forward. So we recognize the comments that came from Upland and Claremont, and we're willing to work with them whenever we can meet with them when they're available. And today was the first time we had substantive comments in 50 days since they knew of the project. So I just need to report that just happened today, and we gave you the information as quickly as we could get it to you today. So most of those items, I think, can be handled or can be successfully addressed as we move forward with that aspect of that study that needs to take place. So if you have any other questions, I can probably still answer some more if you want.
All right, thank you. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I have my light on.
Yes, you're next.
I want to, before I get into some other things, comment on the Huntington Drive situation. I'm concerned because I'm familiar with that street, how we're going to handle parking on that street. People are going to park in front of their homes. It's already narrow. We're going to have more cars going down that street. It's already very, very tight. You've heard the gentleman say how it took him a little bit longer to get out of his driveway. That's a concern I have on that street. At the same time, I don't think you want to restrict people's ability to park in front of their home. That is their right. It's a public street. Just don't look at the screen and it'll be fine. I think we need to really look at that situation and talk to the neighbors more. Because I know some very narrow streets, it's hard to navigate them, and these neighbors have been there. Now you're adding more cars. The other thing I'm concerned about, speed bumps, speed humps, little dots in the road, whatever you want to call them. One, there's issues with fire and police who try to get through. Number two, in many cases, speed bumps, speed humps, et cetera, can become dangerous. I've seen people take them at less than the speed recommended, and there have been problems. So we really need to look at what type of traffic calming we're going to put in there. Some of the questions I had already been asked. I'll get into the cultural significance. I remember years ago, before I was elected to this council, the Bravo family told me about their ties to that community and that neighborhood and how they felt about it. And not every neighborhood in Montclair is historic, but this one happens to have a tremendous amount of history to many people. And whatever we can do to recognize that and do something with it is important. It is a part of their heritage. It's a part of the heritage of Southern California. It's a part of the heritage of California. And I think we need to look at that. I see some of the other things I have on here. Although I like the development, I'm fairly pro-development. My private life, I work in a real estate related organization. We're renting 180,000, 200,000 housing units a year short or more in California. It have been for 30 years. The real issue in California isn't the fact we're running short. It's the fact there's nothing that's affordable. I believe every project should simply be affordable. Look at what the median workforce income is in the area and figure a way to build to that. I don't believe in this bit of we want everybody to be upwardly, that we have to build things for very, very high-end people, more expensive. I think we need to build to the people who are here already, the people who are working here. I don't believe in this bit of taking money, putting all the affordable housing in one neighborhood. In fact, that does violate RENA and several other California Housing Act things. It's not your issue, but I'm just letting the public know. You take all that money and put it in one neighborhood, there will be problems. Cities are being sued as it is. Several organizations are suing because of that very issue. If I had my way, everything up there would be affordable. There would be a mix of ownership and rental. You know, the average person, if you're making if you're a family of four making $70,000 a year in this city, you can't afford to buy. You're barely able to rent. Much less the workers at our fast food places. They deserve a place too, and we can talk about all the things we're going to do in the future. That's been California's problem for 30 years. The future, the next batch, the next round, the next cycle, the next whatever. So, you know, I'm struggling with that aspect of it. It is a beautiful project. I'm concerned, as I said earlier, when I've mentioned the traffic situation up there. Today, for example, I was driving, it was in the city of Upland on Arrow Highway. I was driving westbound on Arrow Highway. It's very narrow in the area I was in. There were apartments on either side, cars parked on the street. Man parked his truck in the middle of the street, flashing, have his lights flash so he could get out and deliver a parcel to somebody. Cars were literally, and it's 40 miles an hour there, cars were literally screeching, and you could hear the sound of the brakes. And that's on a thoroughfare. I would hesitate what would happen if that happened on Huntington Drive, where somebody just parked their truck in the middle. They shouldn't have done it, but you can't watch people 24 hours a day. You know, we can't compensate for the fact that some people are just kind of ignorant. That's a concern to me. This gentleman said that he's going to have part of this running through his property. We need to see what we can do to satisfy these residents. And you're never going to make everybody happy, but what we can do to try to answer their concerns, because they're very real concerns. I know whereof I speak. In my neighborhood, the 10 freeway now is the length, from my bedroom window to the 10 freeway, it is literally the length of a Ford Crown Victoria. My neighbors have put up with all of that. We understand how our voice isn't heard, whether it's SBCTA, the city, or anybody else. Lastly, I just received the comments from Upland and Claremont today. I have to try to read through them, and I did. They're fairly short, but mesh them with the information we were provided in our council packet earlier. That isn't always possible. So I'm just, you know, if those cities didn't do it in a timely manner, well, we need to work with them in the future. But, you know, whether they act in a timely manner or not, I've just been given information that I need to review and deal with. So I'm struggling, although I really like the project and think it will be a benefit to the city and the area. I concur with some of what Mr. Villanueva said, but let's find a way to work with these residents, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Martinez.
Thank you. So I'm really proud of the residents for speaking up and submitting letters and talking about the real issues that I don't think we talk enough about at council meetings, which is gentrification and the cultural significance of some areas of our cities. So I want to thank the people that took the time to write those letters and attend the meetings and speak up. I do also believe that Trammell Crow has gone above and beyond to try to address those concerns and to try to do more than what I think may be necessary from developers for an issue that is largely the city's responsibility, I think. I love the idea of making the sewer systems accessible for the residents. I love the idea of listening to the residents as far as the roadway is concerned and how that will impact their neighborhood. This is a project that's going to positively affect over 300 families and allow for more of our residents to places to live. There's also a competing interest in not gentrifying a community that's right next door. So what would be important moving forward is maybe allowing the new development to create opportunities for the residents next door, which I think has been addressed. Maybe, I don't know if this is an option or if it would create liability, but maybe offering some of the resources at the development to the neighboring community. Maybe considering in the future the Huntington Drive Street, directing the residents to enter the development from the Monte Vista side, maybe not allowing it to go all the way through from that direction. You know, perhaps that would alleviate some congestion on Huntington, and that's not an issue for today, but there are things that I think we can do to address the concerns by the residents there. Another thing is, you know, perhaps hiring people in our community if there are positions in the development. I think that that's something that can be done. The fact that we're going to have beautification right next door, that's fantastic. As long as we're not hurting the neighborhood, I think Trammell Crow is doing a fantastic job of addressing those concerns. I would like to see in the future, you know, we do continue discussing gentrification, not just for this neighborhood, but for all of Montclair and the developments that are occurring. And the fact that this is being brought up today, I think is going to have a very positive impact on our city.
All right, thank you.
I think that's all. Sorry, 1 second. Yeah, that was all of my comments. I really thank you, Trammell Crow, for going above and beyond. I think that you are listening to the residents. I think that's wonderful. I want the residents to be heard, and if there's anything that we can do in the future to not affect the cultural significance or affect or gentrify that neighborhood, then we as a city should do it. I definitely think we should. But thank you.
Okay, I have a question for clarification. The traffic improvement study, will that come back to City Council for approval? Or was that all staff-driven?
The separate study that's occurring for.
The study, what the traffic improvements will be, if it's warranted, does that come back to City Council?
So we will do a specific traffic analysis as part of the overall study of the North Montclair streets. So is that what you're?
Yeah, this Huntington Drive, Mills, will that come back to us, the outcome of that study?
What about the study that Mole and Polyzoid will be completing? And
Yeah.
yes, that study will come back to the city council. So as Mr. Diaz indicated, this project is not punching through to the west side where the Arbor Verde neighborhood is. They're only building the Huntington Boulevard up to the west end of their property. The Mole and Polyzoid study will come back to you that will show design improvements that they would be recommending to the city council related to the section of Huntington Drive that goes through Mole and Polyzoid, or going through the Arbor Verde neighborhood, as well as additional improvements throughout the city related to the streets that they are considering. If the council is not interested at that time of evaluating or making modifications to the Huntington Drive section that goes through the Arbor Verde neighborhood, then the council's not approving those changes that are being recommended, and the streets will remain as they currently are. I also want to point out that it was commented that looking at a map that was up on the PowerPoint, that it looked like driveways were being cut through. That's not the Arbor Verde neighborhood. That's the project that Trammell Crow is proposing. And so there was no map being presented to the city council this evening that demonstrated that driveways in the Arbor Verde neighborhood were being trimmed off as part of an eminent domain process. That's not part of tonight. And there is no proposal to commit eminent domain in this area. That would have to come to the city council for your action and consideration anyway. So please don't let that be part of your consideration tonight, because that's not what this project is about. This is only about the Trammell Crow property. It's about the improvements on Vulcan property related to Huntington Boulevard up to the west end of the Vulcan property. They're not proposing any modifications into the Arbor Verde neighborhood. And if a roundabout is part of what Mullen-Polizioid will come back to you, then that'll be presented to you at that time, and the council gets to make the decision at that point in time what improvements they may or may not want to make to Huntington Drive through the Arbor Verde neighborhood. I also want to point out that it is Claremont that has driven the punching through of Huntington so that it goes east towards Monte Vista Avenue. That was something that Claremont brought to the city's attention more than 20 years ago, and they've hoped and expected that the city would ultimately build Huntington Drive. So in effect, we're kind of responding to an initiative that was introduced by the city of Claremont as well. And again, that's not what you're being asked to consider this evening, though. You're only asked to consider the improvements on Huntington up to the western end of the Vulcan property. I also want to note that Huntington Drive is not an interior street to the project that is being proposed this evening. It doesn't have residents that will be necessarily parking on Huntington Drive. Yes, will there be parking on Huntington Drive? Yes, but it's primarily for guest parking. And so we don't anticipate that there will be Amazon delivery trucks or UPS trucks or any other type of truck that will be parking on Huntington Drive to make deliveries. They'll go into the interior streets of the project to make their deliveries. If they double park on a particular street, as they do throughout every community where Amazon and UPS deliver to now, that'll be part of that environment within the interior streets that will have to be dealt with. But as far as Huntington Drive, that's not an area where these trucks would be parking. So again, we'll be
Let me ask
happy
this
to respond
question,
to any
Ed.
other questions.
Yeah, I got a question to ask you, Ed. So the question I have here, let's say the study comes back and the council doesn't like it at all. Can a cul-de-sac just go in there at the end of the day? If that's-
What was the last part of that?
Can a cul-de-sac, meaning Huntington Drive does not open up at that point, you just have a cul-de-sac, which, I mean, the new development, they have to go towards Monte Vista Avenue, and the residents at Huntington Drive will have to go towards Mills?
Right, and effectively, that's what it will be right now.
Yeah, but, so that could be a possibility, except that now we'd have to amend the North Montclair downtown specific plan to
make all that work.
To eliminate a street and to do the environmental that would
Well,
substantiate all of that changes.
Mayor Dutray, I just wanted to add that as part of the M&P proposal or their contract, they are to analyze this intersection and several other intersections.
Okay.
As part of their scope of work.
So if we decided we just wanted to cul-de-sac it, then at the end of the day, we're not happy with the improvements, then we have to do a specific plan amendment.
That's correct,
make it
because
work.
you're taking out a street that was previously approved as part of the proposal for going forward, and which the
Because of-
developers throughout the area have been relying on those streets and the plans that have been put together, and they're
Right.
following those.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, Councilman Lopez.
Mr. Starr, did you state that Huntington Drive, in the interior of their project, there would not be parking on that street?
No, there will be parking, but it's primarily for guest parking.
Well, not primarily, specifically for, it's public parking.
Right, it's public parking, it's a public street, but it's intended that guests will park there.
They're likely yet to be the guest of that area, but they're not assignable.
Okay, but that's where, again, I have another problem, because even in the staff report, it says the street would have 2 lanes of travel, 1 per direction, with parking only on one side, the south, adjacent to the project site. We're hoping that it would be just guest parking, but that could be anybody. And even the city of Upland, again, states that that's going to be problematic, because it says it is more than likely that it is more likely than not that each rental unit will have a parking demand of more than 1.5 parking spaces for tenants. It is anticipated that many tenants potentially will be parking on public streets such as Huntington Drive.
Okay.
How would existing residents on Huntington Drive and the parking spaces for the trail users be impacted? I just, on paper, it may look great, but the reality is it's not going to accommodate it. And now we're talking about the interior of their development.
Well, we think there's a misinterpretation on the part of the city that responded. The project self-parks. There's, as far as we are concerned, there is plenty of parking. They are not asking for an exemption for a reduction in parking because they make certain that they built in adequate parking for all of their tenants that will be living there, as well as accommodating guests.
And they will be preparing a parking management plan that's part of their conditions of approval to make sure that their residents that live in that community are aware of their parking requirements and limitations that are, that they're responsible for following.
Per every project in North Montclair.
That's true.
And here is just the concern, is that the development goes in, the properties to the west of the development are now subject to being eaten up. So my question is, how long is how good is a sewer connectivity option for those properties going to be if in the future Polyzoids recommends that that area be developed, that those homes somehow get bought out or pushed out or whatnot? That's where I have my problem.
Well, I think we can't worry about the sewage. The only thing that's going to happen here is a study, and that's it.
Well,
There is
that's
no
something they're willing
sewage
to
connection
entertain.
here, it's just a study. I think the question here we have is, I know Councilmember Rue wants to speak as well, Mayor Pro Tem Rue is, I think this is a good project. There's no doubt about it, and I support it. And remember, this is a project that the Planning Commission recommended to the City Council. So this is, we're here. The only real issue I see right now is Huntington Drive, making sure that you don't have heavy traffic, you don't have trucks, you don't have people speeding, all that good stuff. So my question back to you, Ed, is we're going to do this study that you just talked about, and that's going to come back to the City Council, am I correct? And City Council will have a chance to take a look at that study and determine if it likes the improvements or not.
Yes, that is correct. Just like the Arrow Highway and
If it
Fremont
likes the
study.
improvements, that's the fair share that the developer has to pay. If council does not like the improvements, that means we'll come back with another set of improvements to try to satisfy the City Council? Is that what's going to happen?
If you
Ed?
want modifications,
If you want
yes.
modifications, it comes back to the City Council. All right. So what I'm hearing again is the traffic improvement study will be done. It will come back to the City Council, and the City Council has the last say what the improvements are. Am I correct? At the end of the day,
Yes.
based on these conditions and all that? Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Rue.
Yes, in the issue of Huntington Drive, I would disagree with those who are saying, oh, well, the Amazon trucks all go to the interior street. That may be true. But there's still people on Huntington Drive who need to be delivered to. And what I was referring to tonight was apparently private delivery service. The guy stopped right in the middle of the street, carrying a box across Arrow Highway. Now, granted, it was another city, but what happens in one city will happen in another and has happened in another. I'm very concerned about a narrow street having a lot more traffic than it does right now, and how we're going to handle all of this. And to me, it's a very real concern. Residents don't want that. And they're used to it being one way. We also have concerns from other cities on it, but we need to really take quite seriously the issue of the residents in Huntington Drive and what's going to be going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, everybody's spoken. So we have two choices this evening, City Council. We can either move forward, make a motion, vote it up or down, or we can continue this item to the next meeting if you have more questions. I'm satisfied that at least there's a condition here on the traffic. It's coming back to the City Council. The developer is conditioned to work with staff on the study and the improvements, and then pay a fair share fee for it. Am I correct?
That's correct.
That's correct. So if this city council doesn't like it, then we can request additional improvements or
Changes.
changes for improvements. What we cannot do, I understand, is we can't just say, just put a cul-de-sac there, we'll figure it out later. Or is that a possibility?
Not with going out through the process of justifying the change.
That a process justifying the change. Okay. And of course, the study, what we do, the study improvements is part of that process to justify if the changes are workable or not.
Right, because when the traffic analysis was done for the whole thing.
Yeah, I know. The
originally,
traffic analysis for the
things
whole
change
specific plan.
if you
Okay.
start taking out streets.
All right. So, you guys want to move forward tonight?
Mayor Dutray, we have our legal counsel, that Alicia Wintersweck, that wanted to make comments on the Housing Accountability Act. If you don't mind, we could.
And who is this?
Alicia Wintersweck from BB&K.
Who did she work for?
BB&K.
She's our legal counsel?
The consulting attorney for us.
Go ahead.
Lisa, you're on.
Hello, Alicia. Can you hear us? We cannot hear you, and looks like you are muted. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Let's see. Can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Alicia Wintersweig with Best and Krieger. I wanted to just briefly touch on one point that came up during the applicant's presentation. There was a reference that was made during the presentation to the Housing Accountability Act and how the project satisfies the city's obligations under the Housing Accountability Act. I just wanted to highlight for you what the Housing Accountability Act is and what it means in relationship to this particular project. So the act itself provides that when a proposed housing development complies with specific applicable objective, general plan, or subdivision standards and various criteria that the city has adopted for development of the particular piece of land that is in question, that the city may disapprove the project or approve the project on a condition that it be developed at a lower density, only if the city makes specific written findings that the project would have a specific adverse and unavoidable impact to public health or safety. And so the purpose of the act is to really try to force local governments to take a hard look at housing projects and to avoid situations where, you know, there are cries out against a particular project for reasons that don't relate to public health, safety, or welfare. And so I'm pointing this out to you only so that you have some understanding of what that reference meant when it was presented in the PowerPoint earlier today or earlier this evening. I don't hear anything that's suggesting to me that the council is leaning in this direction or even contemplating, you know, approving a project that's at a lower density than what is proposed in the specific plan, but just wanted to bring this up and highlight it. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Great. Thank you, Alicia. Okay, so again.
My pleasure. Thank you.
No problem. So I think we're ready for a motion. Does anyone want to make a motion?
Yes, Mayor Dutray, I would move for adoption of resolution number 22-3366.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, so it's been first and seconded it.
Mr. Mayor, and that's making the changes, the red line changes that were presented to the
Yeah, that
council.
includes the red line changes in your motion, Carissa?
Yes, it does, Mayor.
And the second agree to that? Yes. Okay, agrees to the changes. And so again, we understand that this city council will see the outcome of the study and we will go through it ourselves and decide if we want to modify, approve it, or deny it at a later date. Am I correct, City Manager Starr? What's going to happen? Okay.
Talking about the Mullen-Polyzoid study, yes.
Exactly. Yes, thank you very much. All right, any more comments? Any questions?
Just a quick question.
Go ahead.
Mr. Pedersen, you give me your word that the issues brought up by those residents and even some of the concerns I have with respect to the historical significance of the area, I know it's outside of your development, that you will do everything feasibly possible to address those concerns and maintain its significance and importance.
Yes, yes, you do, and I hope that we exceed those expectations that you have.
All right, I appreciate that, sir.
That's I forgot the second issue. I appreciate you bringing it back, and I appreciate the comments of Mr. Villanova, who's not here right now, talking about the history of the area, and I've heard about it, but he illustrated even greater the importance of obviously to recognize it as part of your project, and so I know at one point in this area, not just this area, throughout the country, you did have those racial differences, racial discrimination going on, where people of certain nationalities live in a certain area, and thank God we moved away from that. So I'll stop mumbling and let's have electronic vote, which I think we're ready to go. All right, everybody's voted? Okay, it's 5-0. Congratulations, but don't forget what we talked about. Thank you, sir. Thank you, guys. Okay, well, now we're down to the second public hearing item. And as council recalls, the last meeting, the city council considered placing two initiatives in the ballot regarding cannabis regulations and also taxing cannabis. The first one was an advisory vote for cannabis. That resolution, I was 5-0 to place on the ballot. And the second one was the taxing of cannabis activity in Montclair, and I was adopted 4-1 vote. Part of that vote included the adoption of the ordinance that's related to the taxing of the cannabis. That was a first reading. This will be a second reading. I understand this only requires 3 votes because this is the ordinance. Am I correct, City Clerk? City Attorney?
No, this would take 4 votes.
4 votes on the ordinance? Second reading on the ordinance? Is that clear?
I'm sorry. The measure itself, but no, the
measure-
ordinance just takes 3 votes.
The measure itself to place on the ballot requires 4 votes. This being an ordinance, if the measure is adopted, this ordinance goes into place, goes into effect. Is that how it works?
Yes, the ordinance will not be effective until the vote goes into takes place.
Based on the November election, and again, that requires 3 votes. Okay, we have that clarification then. Okay, any comments on this? Can I have, or not, can I have a motion?
Just a clarification,
I apologize, and I open the public hearing. Go ahead.
just for clarification, the specifics that we discussed at the meeting 2 weeks ago are to be brought up dependent on the outcome of this election in November, correct?
Yes, the issues that were raised at the last meeting, yes.
Number of businesses, the licensing, et cetera.
Yes.
All right. I move for approval as presented.
Let's do this. I have a public hearing open right now. I got Mayor Pro Tem. Anybody wants to speak on this item? I don't see any speakers. We're gonna close the public hearing. Mayor Pro Tem Rue.
Yes, I have a question along the similar lines. We're talking about creating an ordinance. We may have one on a shelf. That's 300 pages. That ordinance shouldn't go into effect until we've had a chance to talk about other ordinances. I realize there may be some hesitation, but I like the one that we had talked about, that was presented to us by the UFCW. It protects workers, it protects businesses, it protects law enforcement. There's a lot of guarantees in there that I like, and I don't want us to just adopt something without considering all the ordinances. So my question tonight is this adopting that 300-page ordinance? I want specifics.
No, it is not adopting that ordinance. That ordinance has to come back to the city council for separate consideration under a public hearing process, 2 consecutive meetings. And for the record, the ordinance does incorporate living wage components. It does incorporate provisions that focus on hiring local employees to work at the various establishments. So we do hope and believe that the ordinance has satisfied all of the concerns that the council members expressed at the last meeting. One reason why it's 300 pages long is because we made certain that not only is it a regulatory ordinance, but it meets the needs of the community as the council has expressed to us in the past.
I'll debate that another day.
Yeah, I believe the ordinance in front of us is strictly related to the taxation of cannabis. And this is all subject to annexes, and that is the city council adopts a separate ordinance in terms of the regulation and the
Sorry, Mr.
sales
Mayor,
of cannabis.
There's one thing in here, it says, subject to final approval by the voters at the November 8th. I thought November 8th meeting, the November 8th ballot measure was an advisory measure only.
There are two measures. This is not related to the advisory measure. This is related to the cannabis taxing measure. This ordinance is related to. It has nothing to do with advisory measures. There's no ordinance related to the advisory measure. Okay, Mayor, Councilmember Lopez.
So just for clarification again, because I am kind of dovetailing into the same concerns Mayor Pro Tem Rue has. This in no way addresses any of the specifics regarding licensing, number of establishments, zoning of those establishments, the 1% requirement of gross receipts going back to Montclair entities. It in no way does that. This merely allows, if the voters approve it, the taxation, the organization of how to tax, how to collect.
Exactly.
And all the other nuances to implement that, correct?
Yes, that is
All right.
correct.
And then the other point I want to bring up here is we also directed the city manager to bring something back to us, the community benefits.
For October.
For October. And you, again, that's going to still happen.
You did, and I can even address that in part. We looked at the Pomona ordinance, we spoke with Pomona staff, and the 1% provision is voluntary, it's not mandatory. It's based on gross receipts, and it only gives them 50 points out of 1,000. So for the businesses that are considering voluntarily agreeing to that, it's based on whether or not they're close to that 1,000 points. If they're not close to that 1,000 points, they're not voluntarily agreeing to give up 1%. So it isn't really structured where it's mandatory as members of the council thought. It's completely voluntary, and it's not necessarily
Right,
getting
but-
wide reception.
But you're going to bring something back to us prior to October. There's other ways to do this that you and I
Yes.
have had conversation with outside these council chambers, so.
And I, of course, would want it mandatory in that regard.
Well, again, it would be a tax if it was made mandatory, and that would be illegal.
Right, but there's other options we have this council can consider that I think are going to be very workable.
Yes.
So, okay, so we have a motion on the floor, and I think we're ready for electronic vote.
Mr. Mayor, could we clarify who made that motion? Was that Mr. Lopez?
No, that's a good question. Mr. Lopez moved it.
I was in the process of, so I will
Let's just
formally
have a
move the item.
second. How about? And Councilmember Johnson seconds the motion. Okay, that's adopted. Now we're going to hit the consent calendars, and I'll again start with how about my right this time?
No items this evening, Mr.
No
Mayor.
item to see on my right, nobody on my right? How about my left?
Yeah, I would like to make just a quick comment about item C1.
Item C1, quick comments, okay. All right, how about, go ahead.
None from me, Mr. Mayor.
Lead off, C1.
I just think this item needs a little bit of special recognition because there are going to be some major improvements done to Holt Boulevard. I'm excited for the barriers that are going to protect the pedestrians and the bicyclists on Holt. We have a lot of comments from residents asking when we're going to pay more attention to the south side of Montclair, so I'm happy to see that things are around the corner.
You know, every time I talk about south of Montclair, and we're south of Montclair, and there is another area of Montclair, south of Mission, that's probably south of Montclair where I live at, and
So I just wanted to
south middle.
point that out.
I guess I'm south-south.
You're pretty south.
Yeah, very south. Sorry.
That's okay.
Time for comic.
Okay, so, yeah, I don't really have any other questions about it. I just think it's, our residents need to know that this is happening. We're gonna have improvements. We're gonna have access from Holt to the other trails.
Well,
Thank you.
we hope to spend $45 million. We'll see how inflation does that, but there's a lot of improvements we hope to do. So, can I get a motion for the consent calendar? We've already approved item C2, but for the remainder of the consent calendar.
Mr. Mayor, staff has some comments on D1.
D1, go ahead.
D1, so on your dais in front of you, there are some modifications made to the agenda report related to the transfer of property from the city to the Housing Authority. I just need to make note that there have been very minor modifications, one to the agenda report, in which the agenda report now has language in it that says that no change in use is contemplated. In addition, aside from the rehabilitation of the property, no development is contemplated. And in the resolution, a simple sentence has been added, no development of the property is contemplated. That's to make certain that we are in compliance with state law related to excess properties.
And we're going to develop, and it's going to be rented out, and it's under the
Affordable housing purposes, yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay, so, is there a motion for the
Mr. Mayor,
Go
I
ahead.
move for approval of the consent calendar.
And second, and with the modifications to item D1.
Yes, sir.
All right, electronic vote, there it is. All right, it's also approved. And city attorney, communications.
Yes, I just have the one item indicated in the agenda, and that's for the council members to meet in closed session regarding real property negotiations with Mr. Starr. Other than that, I have nothing else this evening.
Great, thank you. I would just want to recognize that National Night Out went well, and obviously the police department, Captain Michaels did a good job coordinating it, along with obviously Public Works, and I know Human Services, and the fire department. Also made that a success event. I just want to recognize some dates here in August and September. Recognize August 14 is VG Day, the victory in Japan. August 26 is Women's Equality Day. Obviously in September we have Labor Day. There is National Grandparents' Day. September 16 is Mexican Independence Day. September 17 is Constitution Day. September 19 is the PLW MIA Recognition Day. We also have Native American Indian Day, Rosh Hashanah, thank you. And then finally, September and October will be National Hispanic Heritage Month. And finally, I just want to recognize all the candidates who will be running for Montclair City Council, and that includes obviously both my colleagues on the dais, along with Julie DeRosco, which I believe is in the audience, and then Xavier Mendez, and of course for mayor will be Oscar Miranda. Mayor Pro Tem Rue.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, you mentioned one of the items already. That was VJ Day. Commemorated, it was the day that the Second World War ended. It should be noted that when the war ended, more than 3% of the world's population was gone. The most devastating war in history. And to all those veterans who served, we thank you for your bravery, your sacrifice. I know most of you are pushing 100 years old now, but we recognize everybody and the sacrifice that you made. I do want to talk briefly about the drought. 60% of our water use is outdoors. Mowed green turf is the most irrigated crop in America and the most irrigated crop in California. Our reservoirs are probably at about 25% capacity right now, and on September 1st, we will lose Colorado River water. Although we in this direct area are not dependent on Colorado River water, it is a part of our state water system. And so we need to understand that that is a major issue for us. To those who say, well, if you don't want to water your lawn, you just fertilize it, that does tremendous damage, because in about 15 to 20 years, all that fertilizer leaches down into the water system, and it has to be cleaned up, and it's very expensive. The issue nobody wants to realize is that the era of mowed green turf is probably over. It's been over. We need all of us to start looking at new ways to deal with our landscaping. Developers need to start doing things on recycled water, and they need to start eliminating as much mowed green turf as possible. There are beautiful ways you can do things, and it doesn't involve mowed green turf. I will leave it at that. I had other comments, but it's long. We are in the drought. It is very real, so please conserve. And let's not worry about whether the grass should be a certain color. Let's change it out. Thank you.
Councilor Lopez.
Two items real quickly. On August 6th, myself and the full council, we attended Montclair High School's Football Booster Club Spaghetti Dinner. It was a good time had by all. Good to also see Montclair Fire come out and play with the kids. The mayor and I participated in the balloon toss, and I think we made it to the third throw before the balloon busted. Thankfully, though, the mayor didn't get wet. He managed to not get it on himself.
Oh, yeah, hit the ground.
Yeah, I did hit the ground, but at least it didn't get on you. Although, I have to say we did kind of hang in there, and so we didn't get eliminated the first two rounds, which was pretty cool. August 19th, which is this Friday, Montclair High School football will resume, and let's hope that we have a great run like we did last season, but this time let's hope we take the CIF Division Championship. To Coach Bacon and the entire team and parents and staff, wish you the best of luck, and we will see you at the field on the 19th, where they will be playing Village Christian. That is it, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have two quick items. It was my honor to represent the city of Montclair at the National League of Cities Women in Municipal Government Conference last week, and we talked about several issues related particularly to women, like childcare and education, et cetera. And I can share some of that stuff offline if you want. But one of the things that stood out to me is one of the speakers who's actually a city manager in I think in the marina, somewhere down by LA in the marina, who talked about a disaster event that they had and how certain they were prepared, and everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. So as we are entering disaster preparedness month and earthquake preparedness months, I'd like to hear something about from our public safety departments about we have 40,000 residents, and what should we do if there's a major event? There has been some discussion years ago about, if your house falls down because of earthquake, go to City Hall. Well, City Hall cannot accommodate 40,000 people, so what are we going to do in the case of a disaster? But until we can get to that place where we can hear from public safety, I really want to encourage people to be prepared to take care of yourself. So you should have water for your family. You should be able to support your family for at least 2 or 3 days, and even in your automobile. So if you go outside right now and look in my trunk, there's a bag in there that has shoes, because I might have on my cute shoes and have to walk someplace far. So I have comfortable sneakers that I can walk if I need to. I have enough water and food to last me for 2 or 3 days. I also, because you never know where you're going to be stopped, you might not be stopped next to a restroom, I have tissue and other ways to take care of those issues as well in the trunk of my car. Because I often think about, you may recall many years ago, part of the 10 freeway down in LA fell, and people were just stuck on the freeway. Well, what if you're stuck on the freeway? So while, yes, we tend to think, well, the government's going to protect us in the case of emergency. And, of course, government will do all that we can, but we need to take care of ourselves. We need to be prepared to take care of ourselves and our own families as well. That's all I have tonight.
Councilor Martinez.
Yeah, so today was my baby sister's first day at Chaffey College, thanks to the Montclair to College program. And so she is going to get to go for 2 years, free, books paid for, everything, thanks to that program. Our mom, former council member Tricia Martinez, went to Chaffey College. I went to Mount San Antonio College. And the first time I ever sat on the dais was actually at Mount Sac in student government. Junior colleges, community colleges, they are amazing opportunities. So to anybody listening who knows someone in high school or about to be in high school, definitely reach out for information about the Montclair to College program. Thank you.
Well, I went to Chaffey College, and I served in student government at Chaffey College. All right, let's go to closed session.